Good morning. Today we're talking about from the classroom to the C-suite, and joining me are two C-suite executives, ladies who've climbed the corporate ladder from being juniors in their field all the way to the C-suite, being executives and specialists in their industry. Kagiso Musi, who is the Group Managing Director of Meta Media, and Andrea Quaye, who is a seasoned executive, been at the helm of multinational companies. And of course, with us is Phiona Martin, industrial psychologist. Welcome, ladies.
Good morning, Odette. Thank you for having us.
So, Kagiso, when we were chatting a few weeks ago, I was so surprised that your career journey mirrored so many other stories about women in the workplace who have to work extra hard, twice as hard sometimes as male counterparts, in order to be recognized and to be validated. Is that still the case?
I think it's an ingrained phenomenon in the world of work. You know, when it comes to women and females, and the amount of effort that they've actually got to put in is always twice the amount across all sorts of different ways, right? So how you get hired, how you get promoted, what you do on a daily basis, you've just always got to be validating things twice as much as the male counterpart, you know, which is sad because you do that and you also have to do that at home. You know, so it's
Yes.
literally, and since the day of work, from back in the day, women have always had to do that. When the
Wow.
guys go hunt, the women have to come clean it, cook it, tend to the kids, clean the house, etc. from day dot.
Right,
So it's just validated in how society is, actually.
Andrea, from your perspective, have you found that results were enough, or did you find that you had to also, you know, put in a whole lot of extra effort over and above the results that you were delivering?
Yeah, I've obviously had the privilege in working in companies where results are super important, and at the end of the day, that can't be denied. But for me, the best example of how much harder I had to work was when we had these yearly conferences
Yes.
in front of the sales force, and all the brand directors had to speak in front of the sales, in front of like 2,000 salespeople. And I remember the lady that organized the conference said to me, Andrea, because you're a woman, you have to be perfect. You have to look perfect. Your speech has to be perfect and everything. And I used to dress up for these sessions. I have my hair done. I used to have makeup, and I would be impeccable with the timing of my slides and everything.
My word, yeah.
And funny enough, at the end of the presentations, you would get feedback from the audience. And the feedback that I would get was amazing, great presentation, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not sure I believe her because she's talking about a masculine brand and she's a woman.
Wow.
So there was still, after I had gone through all of that effort and all the results, there was still a doubt because I was a woman.
Wow, Phiona, what is this phenomenon? You help us understand this from a psychological perspective, please.
Yeah, I think in essence, what the ladies have touched on is something called double bias, right? So this
There's
is
a term for it.
Yes,
There's
absolutely.
like a real term, like a real theory.
Phenomenon. Yes, exactly, right. And this is a case where women have to continually prove themselves to be considered competent, right? So if it's a case where you've produced the results, you've attained the goals, you've turned the company around, you've done what you need to do, it's like, oh, congratulations, well done. Now do it again and again and again. So there really never comes a point where it is enough for you to be considered competent, right? Particularly compared to your male peers and your male counterparts. And male privilege is a real thing. So sometimes I'll get men who will say, well, I've worked very hard, for where I am. And of course, I'm sure you've worked very hard, right? But as a male, you are often afforded the competence, even before, so there's very little questions around your competence compared to your female colleagues. And similarly, even when it comes to recruitment decisions, women are recruited or they are appointed based on performance, and men are appointed based on potential, right? So what does that mean? as a woman, you have to be unequivocally, unambiguously have this very strong objective track record of performance for them to actually consider you suitable for the role.
Wow. So, you know, it's across every industry that I've come to understand that we have to have a thick skin as women, right? I remember early in my career, I was sent to an image consultant as part of a team building exercise for us in the marketing department. And I was specifically told that because you work in a male-dominated environment, it is recommended that you wear a pair of pants when you attend a meeting with males, and that you stay away from the color pink so that you can be taken seriously. Why is it, Phiona, that we do this, looking for this validation from our peers?
Yeah, and I'm going to introduce another term again. There's something that's called the double bind.
Double bind.
Yes. So as a woman, it's damned if you do, doomed if you don't. So what that means is there are particular expectations around qualities, characteristics that come with being a female, right? So you find where a female adopts, behaviors that are associated more with males. So being decisive, being aggressive, being assertive, right? You will be considered competent but unlikable. So it's things like, an ice queen, an iron lady, those are like the words that you get. However, when a woman then, I guess, leads with more, with characteristics that are more associated, with more feminine, so things like, being compassionate, qualities like being compassionate, being understanding, trying to do things in a different way, they are considered incompetent, right? Because the characteristics associated with women are devalued in the workplace. They're considered not good enough, to get things done around here. Those are the sentiments that you hear. So women always have this struggle of, okay, if I act too much like a man, I do get judged. If I act too much like a woman, I do get judged. So that's why it's called the double bind, because there is never a perfect mix.
Andrea, if you could give yourself, your younger self, a piece of advice, and this is really for the young ladies out there who are aspiring to achieve the height in the career that ladies like yourself and Kagiso have gotten to in the C-suite, what would that one piece of advice be?
The one piece of advice that I would give to my younger self, and my advice to a lot of young, up-and-coming women going into the corporate world, just business as a whole, is I would have gotten a psychologist or something a lot earlier on in my career.
Right.
Just so you can really learn about yourself and be prepared and be strong and whole, so that when you show up in these environments, you're not looking for that validation, but you're confident in what you are proposing and what you're putting forward.
Wow, that's a great piece of advice. And Kagiso, to your younger self, to the younger ladies, what would you give them as advice?
Very, very similar to Andrea. I think having somebody who can promote you.
You're right.
Promote you in your head, promote you in the organization, promote you in your ideas. Having somebody to talk to and bounce things off. And this is not a friend, somebody who's able to be critical, with you, but help you see blind spots.
Right.
Coaches, mentors are an important part of getting somewhere. And coaches internally, within the organization are even more important, because those become your sponsors.
Right. So to the young ladies out there, today I learned that I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one who struggled throughout my career in terms of having to work hard to seek validation. But most importantly, that the gender inequality, even in 2020, is not a myth. It still exists. It's still real. So you need to know how to navigate around that. And you need to be prepared. You need to show up, and you need to show up confidently. And the way to do that is to get yourself a mentor, a sponsor, hear the criticism, learn from that criticism, and go and put your best foot forward. Ladies, thank you very much for joining me today. It was a wonderful time chatting to you, learned so much, and be safe.